For centuries, the story of the Maya has felt like one of history's greatest unsolved mysteries. You know the one. This brilliant civilization of astronomers and architects building these massive cities deep in the jungle, only to, what? Vanish? Okay, let's dive into what really happened. You know, when explorers like John Lloyd Stevens first stumbled on these ruins back in the 1800s, this was the image that just captured the world's imagination. This idea of a magnificent, dead world being swallowed by the jungle. This quote, it's the perfect place to start, because it really sets up that romantic, but totally wrong, myth of a people who just disappeared off the face of the earth.
But the truth? The truth is so much more complicated, and honestly, way more fascinating than any myth. It's a story of incredible highs, a terrifying ecological crisis, and, in the end, just remarkable human resilience. So yeah, what really happened?
To understand the fall, you first have to appreciate the incredible heights from which they fell. So let's go back in time. Let's head to the Classic period, which was really the golden age of Maya civilization.
Okay, first thing you gotta know, this was not one giant unified empire like the Romans. Not at all. Think more like ancient Greece. The Maya world was this dynamic, often chaotic collection of powerful city-states, all competing with each other. And you had these two superpowers, Tikal and Calakmul, locked in this bitter rivalry for centuries.
And right at the heart of every single one of these cities was the Kuhul Ajau, the Holy Lord. Now this person wasn't just a king. No, he was seen as a god on earth. And his most important job, his whole reason for being, was to talk to the gods through these super elaborate rituals to make sure the rains came, the corn grew, and the universe basically stayed in one piece.
And what a civilization it was. I mean, this slide really puts it into perspective just how incredibly advanced they were. We're talking about the only complete writing system in all of the ancient Americas. Astronomical knowledge so precise they could chart the course of Venus and predict eclipses. And get this, they independently came up with the concept of zero, centuries before most of Europe figured it out.
But, and you knew there was a but coming, underneath this whole golden age, the engine of their society was starting to run way too hot. The very things that made them so successful were, ironically, planting the seeds of their own destruction. It was the start of a catastrophic chain reaction. Look at this number, 15 million. At their peak, the Maya population might have hit 15 million people. That is an unbelievable number of people to support in a rainforest, and it put an almost unimaginable strain on their resources, especially land and water.
And a big part of that strain came down to something that sounds almost simple: plaster. The kings were always competing to build bigger, more magnificent temples, all coated in this beautiful, gleaming white stucco. But the process to make it, as you can see here, was incredibly destructive. To create just 1 ton of that plaster, they had to burn 20 tons of green wood. You can just imagine what that led to: massive, widespread deforestation.
And then nature itself turned against them. All that deforestation actually made the climate drier, and it happened to collide with a period of natural, severe megadroughts. We're talking the worst the region had seen in 7,000 years. This wasn't just one dry summer. This was wave after wave of decades-long drought that just baked the earth and dried up the reservoirs. It was a devastating case of human action making a natural disaster so much worse.
So you have this perfect storm, right? Overpopulation, deforestation, and extreme climate change. It all led to a complete unraveling. This is where the famous collapse really begins, city by city.
And this is where that divine king's job becomes so critical. Remember, their entire authority, their entire power, was based on their promise to talk to the gods and bring rain. So they performed more and more desperate rituals, more sacrifices, but the skies stayed empty. For the average person, the social contract was broken. Their gods on earth had failed.
And you can see this breakdown in society in a really terrifying way. Look at how their warfare changed. What used to be a highly ritualized event, all about capturing rival nobles for sacrifice on special dates, became a brutal, desperate scramble for survival. They weren't fighting for glory anymore. They were fighting for the last scraps of food and water.
We can actually track the collapse in the stone records they left behind. The Maya meticulously carved dates onto their monuments. And then, one by one, they just stopped. At the city of Copan, the last carving was left half-finished. At Tikal, the last date we see is 869. And after 909, silence. The great southern cities fall silent. The people just walked away. But wait, this is not the end of the story. In fact, this is the part where we get to bust that big myth wide open. The Maya didn't vanish. They adapted, they moved. The people who abandoned those dying cities in the south, they migrated north to the Yucatan Peninsula. And they didn't just survive there, they thrived. They built magnificent new centers, like the legendary Chichen Itza. And what's really amazing is that they learned from their mistakes. You can see it right here. They completely ditched the unstable system of having one single, divine king. Instead, they opted for a more stable, joint rule by a council of nobles. They shifted their whole economy away from that fragile rainforest agriculture to a much more resilient coastal sea trade network. In short, they evolved.
Which brings us to the most important point of all. The Maya are not a lost civilization. They are here, right now. Their story isn't one of vanishing. It's one of incredible, enduring resilience.
This number really says it all. 7 million. There are 7 million Maya people living today in Central America and Mexico. That is the ultimate proof against the myth of a vanished people. They didn't disappear. They endured.
And their resilience is legendary. I mean, think about this. While the huge Aztec and Inca empires fell to the Spanish in just a couple of years, it took the conquistadors 176 years to finally conquer the last independent Maya kingdom. Why? Because the Maya were decentralized, they were adaptable, and they simply refused to give up.
And that culture is still so vibrant. Today, millions of people still speak Mayan languages. Farmers are still cultivating corn using ancient techniques passed down for generations. And spiritual leaders, called daykeepers, still use the sacred 260-day calendar that their ancestors perfected thousands of years ago.
So the story of the classic Maya collapse isn't just about the past. It's a profound warning, right? It's a cautionary tale of a highly advanced society that pushed its environment too far, with a political system that was too rigid to adapt in time. And that just raises a really powerful question for all of us today. Are we listening?
Please like and subscribe.